Dear church, let's talk country music and faith with Jimmy Mattingly. Hello and welcome to the Dear Church podcast. I'm your host, Chris McCurley. Excited about my guest today. Jimmy Mattingly is joining us. You know, Jimmy, one of the calling cards for coming to this church and working here at Walnut Street was I was going to be close to Nashville, and I'm a huge country music fan, always have been, and I was excited about, being in that culture. And then I moved to Walnut Street, and it's unreal how many country music artists and people who are in the country music business live in this community and close. And not only that, but we have you here, who is one of our members here at Walnut Street. And for those who don't know, Jimmy Mattingly is the fiddle player for Garth Brooks, has been for many years. And, have been how many years?
Close to 30 years.
30 years. And played with a lot of the greats. It's unreal to me, who you've been with and played with and all that. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I've always said the Dear Church podcast doesn't just talk about church matters. We also try to infuse some of the things that are my loves, like sports and country music on this case. So talk a little bit about that, but also talk about your faith and kind of how those things go together. But I guess start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to this point.
Well, I grew up in Litchfield, Kentucky, and lived on a farm. When I was young, we had no running water, so my dad was a fiddle player, and so I, was kind of enamored by that, and just wanted to try it, and so it came kind of natural, and so I started playing it. It was kind of my thing. It was like a refuge. I could go to that and work on that and I loved it. And just went on. I was a competition fiddle player, like all through high school. I played some classical music too. But competition fiddle play was the big thing. And won some state championships at Kentucky, Tennessee, and won the Grandmasters National Championship. And once I did that, I was like, okay, I need to move on. And I got in some bluegrass bands, went out with a nationally acclaimed bluegrass band. Bela Fleck was in the band at 19. And then came back and decided I wanted to play country music. So I started working with the band in Louisville, Kentucky, and played with them for a pretty good while, worked around Louisville, and then got a call from a guy that was putting a band together for a group called the Forster Sisters. And I thought, I've kind of wanted to go on the road, and, I've always thought about that. And so, it was just one of those things where I made the choice to, this is the time, go jump out there and see what it's all about. And so I did. And through that, we did shows with Oak Ridge Boys, Ricky Skaggs, Lee Green, a bunch of 80s Randy Travis, and then got to know the people that were putting Dolly Parton's band together. But the guy that was the band leader for Dolly Parton was also married to one of the Forster sisters. Okay, so he wouldn't offer me the job, and
He wanted to keep.
he didn't want to do that to his wife. So
Right.
Steve Warner called me and said, I've got a song with fiddle on it, and I'm going to need a fiddle player for a short period of time here while this song's out. Where did I go wrong? And I said,
Great song.
he said, would you like to come and do it? And I had been there 5 years, and, it was a great gig, but I was just trying to move up and get to a headlining gig. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I just made that leap. And when I did, then Dolly's band leader called me pretty much immediately and said, hey, I've been wanting to offer you this job. Now I can do it. Do you want to come and work for Dolly? And we're like, that's a no-brainer. 26 years old. And, but, and then that went, and things went from there. Dolly quit touring, and then Garth, I went out and did a show with a contemporary Christian artist, Susan Ashton, and we opened for Garth in Europe. And so Garth saw me and called me to play on a song on his album, Fever. And then after that, he said, "Hey, would you be interested in going out with us?" And at the time, I was doing some shows with Brooks and Dunn, because Dolly had quit. And then it's worked out. I've actually missed one tour with Dolly in 35 years.
Really?
At the same time, I've worked with Garth. Yes. But I will say all that happened. And I said this at the Fiddler's Hall of Fame induction last year. It's like when you get to my age that I am now, it's a great thing because you can look back.
Yeah.
And you can see how those doors got opened for you.
Yeah.
And that you could never make that happen like that. Right. You couldn't dream it up and make it happen like that. It's like, God had to guide me through all those steps and those choices. And so now that I'm at my age now, I look back and I go,
yeah, it's really incredible. So talk a little bit about that, how your faith kind of formed the foundation of all this. Because I've been told, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of stories about, musicians being promiscuous and, having all these opportunities to do things that are, very worldly, and all the temptations that exist. It seemed like you'd be better prepared for that, growing up. And did you grow up in a Christian home and all that thing?
I had a brother, and he was bedridden like his whole life. And so my mom and dad didn't go to church.
Yeah.
Because he could barely get in a wheelchair.
Right.
But my dad watched it every Sunday. I mean, it was on the TV Sunday morning to lunch, and so I was, and he would talk to me about it, but I was always interested in it. And there's another kind of just a strange thing, but when we moved down to our farm that we lived at, there was a church that was about a mile from there.
Yeah.
And my dad had went there when he was a kid. He lived in that area when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so he talked about it. And I was about, I guess, 11, maybe years old. And I just said, "Hey, I want to go to church up there." And my dad said, "Okay, if you want to go, I'll take you up there." So Dad would take me up there. And a lot of times I would walk.
Yeah.
But somebody would pick me up along the way. It was a mile. There was people coming. It was back a road. So people would pick me up. "Hey, you need a ride." And people would give me a ride to church. And so I started going Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, everything that was going on, I would do it. And so I went all the time. And I did lots of other things too. There was a gospel barn that was close by, and kids would go there on the weekend. It was a really good place for kids to go. I'd go there, and me and a friend of mine that lived like my neighbor that started playing with me and still does play with me.
Sure.
We would go there and play. And so everything was, the church all the time. And I've still got this day planner that I had in 1977. It was, I got it at church, and I had all my fiddle competitions in it and stuff like that. So so you had a spiritual foundation very early. So I did that, I just chose to do that on my own.
Yeah.
And I did it. And, I always feel like, and it's like I didn't do it for any reward except for, and then maybe I was young to figure that out at that time, that just, my salvation. But I do feel like that some of the rewards that I got along the way was maybe from.
Yeah. And your wife is in our studio. She said she probably should be quiet. We said, "You want to be quiet, shout out anything you want to." So if you hear her in the background, it's just your Ginger. And so talk about meeting her and how that kind of set you on a good path as well.
Well, I was in the music business, and so I was young, and I would go out to the dance clubs and stuff on the weekend, and so she just turned 21, and she liked to dance. And so I went out and I met her, and and then that just, we dated for a few years, and we finally got married. But I will say that was the biggest blessing probably to me, because her faith is unbelievable, and
very much like my wife. That's a big part of who you are today. I can hear her in the background going, "This is not your typical Church of Christ story, right?" A dance club and everything.
Well, and
Which is hilarious.
Her parents were her dad was an elder, Church of Christ, and a really good guy, just a great man and a good example.
Sure.
So,
sure.
And her mom is a great Christian lady, and it's like, so the whole thing, having her, and and that's why it's important to have a spouse that's a great Christian person.
Keeps you grounded, doesn't it?
It keeps you grounded. It keeps you there, because back to the music business, when I was younger, I got into stuff, and fortunately, I didn't get into anything that got me where I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do drugs or anything. I was like, I don't want any part of that. But they having that base, I knew it's like when you're doing something when you're young and you're just being dumb, still yet what you're doing is not what you should be doing.
Sure.
And you just, and you're trying to get away from it. And it, it's just, I think it's just simple. It's just, man, the devil's trying to get you. He wants to get you on his side.
Sure.
And he's making it hard for you to get away from it. Once he gets the grip on you, and it's like, and the only way you're going to get away from it is God. He's got to be there to keep him off of it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I look at it now. It's like, man, just keep God right there with me. Yeah. Concentrate on that and do that. And it's much easier to keep him first. Yeah. Keep the devil away from you when he's right there with you. He's going to win.
How much of the public perception do you hear, say, with some of these artists you work with? You've been with Garth forever, and so you're kind of tied to him. So maybe talk about Garth or Dolly or any of these, public perception with social media and everything now. You hear all these stories and things like that. And how much of that do you just kind of roll your eyes and shake your head and go, yeah, that's not how he is or she is or whatever is there? Have you found that the business is as cutthroat as they say and all that, or have you found just they're pretty good people everywhere and it's been a overall good experience?
It's pretty good people everywhere, and a lot of people and a lot of folks do have a Christian base. I just think people get away from it, and it's easy to do, and you got to not let that happen. It can destroy your career. It can destroy your life. Sure. But those two artists in particular, and I've watched them, grow, and they're very. They know that they're blessed, and that all the good things that's come from them comes from God, and they really. And I've been to a few occasions with Garth when he wins stuff and gets inducted into things, and he will just say, thank Jesus Christ, and he puts it out there.
That makes it easier, doesn't it, to be in that kind of atmosphere?
Oh yeah, I love it,
because I can't imagine that it's easy, even if you're playing to capacity crowds and you're having the time of your life. You have children, your kids are grown now like mine are, but, they're away, you're away from them, you're away from your wife. That's still got to be tough, right? If you don't have a good spiritual foundation, that's got to be hard.
Yeah, it makes it makes it easier. Everything's easier.
What's the longest you were away from them on a tour?
Probably maybe 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, not an unusual amount of time like some rock things and stuff, but it just makes it easier. It makes it, I think it just, it brings a peace to you. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You feel good about yourself. When you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, you get convicted, and it's not It does. Yeah, it shouldn't feel good. It's like, okay, this is not right. And but I think in the case of those artists and us and myself, personally, I think our biggest thing that we can do is we can be an example. We can be a witness to people because they're watching you the whole time.
Sure.
They're watching what you're doing. They're watching what you're saying. They're watching everything.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's so important for anybody that's in the spotlight, athletes or, musicians or anybody that's in the spotlight and a Christian, is just what you do, what you say is, because they're going to discount everything you're going to preach to them about if they see you doing something that
ruins your credibility.
Your witness goes,
Has there ever been a situation that you don't have to get specific? Has there ever been a situation you can think of where, your faith directly collided with something the record company wanted you to do or an artist wanted you to do that you just said, I can't do that. My faith supersedes anything else in this situation?
Not in particular. I did have a song that I played on recently, and when I played the fiddle track on it, I just turned the vocal way down on it, and I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
And then I got it done and sent it to them, and everything was done. Then I thought, well, I'm going to listen to this. Let me mix this like it would be, and let me see what it really sounded like.
Yeah.
And then there was some lyric in there that if I would have heard it before I did it, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I mean, if a song uses the Lord's name in vain, I'll just go. I will not do it. It's like, no, sorry.
Yeah.
But good for you. I mean, I've after I did that and I said it, I said, that won't happen again. And I will say no.
Right.
I'll just say respectfully, give that to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I just feel like you just have some
conviction.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And probably as you grow older and you've been doing this long enough, you can probably do more of that and call your own shots, because you are very accomplished in your field. And so you probably have a little more, maybe.
Say anybody could really do that though at any stage, because they
what's it worth?
They would either respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if they didn't, then really,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, you just have to have those kind of boundaries, and you do. I think you just get a little more stubborn the older,
maybe
where you're like, no,
you're a little more comfortable about it. Yeah.
I mean,
what has been, what's your coolest experience? I'm sure you've had many. What's probably one thing that sticks out in your mind over your career? You say that was just really neat.
Well, Central Park was definitely something that was almost so big that we didn't even realize it at the time. It was just, we were just trying to go through the motions and do what we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That, because it was almost 1 million people, and it's just so huge. And then but every time we've played in Ireland, the crowds are just they're just so involved, and it's just amazing. It's just the vibe, the feeling that you get is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is, the crowds, and it's, and you never take it for granted. It's like, every time something like that's going on, that's epic like that, you know how blessed you are to be there, and they could be somebody else and they'd be doing a fine job too.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like you don't get yourself in those positions. I just feel like
I put you there.
I think he put you there.
Yeah.
And
do something with it.
Yeah. It's like he says, okay, I'm going to give you some talent, and then you work on it, but don't mess it up.
Use it for my glory.
But you can really mess it up.
Yeah.
a career of any kind. Sports, I'm a big sports fan too, and Garth is a big sports fan, and I've always said this about him. I promise he runs his organization just like he would if he was a head coach of a football team. I watch him and it's awesome. He just, everything he does, like how he works the people, like the group.
Yep.
It's all sports related. Yeah. If somebody does something, the whole group's going to pay for it. So you don't want to do that to your teammates. Right. And he's a big sports guy too, and played sports. And so, those big shows like Central Park, I look at those like a guy playing in a Super Bowl. Sure. It's like, you try not to overthrow.
Well, I was going to ask you, I mean, have there been moments where you're like, oh, wow, like there's pressure here because I want to mess this up,
Oh, yeah.
That'd be, if it's real intimidating, right?
Yeah, and if it's real loud and you really don't want to go back and listen to a tape of it because you may be playing a little out of tune or something because you're just so over that, your adrenaline is so high.
Yeah.
But it's really good, and there's a lot of great songs in Garth's repertoire that's like,
I was going to ask you, what's your favorite song? I mean, Calling Baton Rouge really features you as much as any. Is that your favorite? What's your favorite to play live?
I like playing that one. Fever's great, obviously, because is the song that really kind of got me there, and I get to play, a lot. I mean, but I like listening to the dance is just epic song, and you could see how it affects people, how makes people think about their lives and what they got going on, and a lot of songs with Dolly. I love a lot of the things that she did. Her like Tennessee Mountain Home, and then one of the most epic performances of all time of hers was He's Alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just amazing.
Yeah, it gives you chills.
So we were with her when she did that CMA performance of that, and when she would do that live, those songs are always special to me because they hit home, and it's like Trisha Yearwood did song Broken that was in one of those Easter specials, and that song, just the lyric and that, just it gets you.
You ever get tired of it? Like, is there like another show I got to play this song again? I've played this 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times.
Never.
No,
never get tired of it. It's just like, as long as I can do it, I want to do it as long as I can do it, and it's something I always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're
gonna savor every minute of it.
It's like somebody said the other day. They said, "You smile all the time." Well, you smile all the time. I said, "Well, why would?" I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. Yeah. I'm blessed to be up there. It's like, I'm able to, pay my bills doing it and take care of my family.
Well, and every time you're not away, you're here. I look out there. And so this is a priority for you as well. Talk about what you're doing now. I know a lot of your time is spent in Vegas because that's where Garth is doing most of his shows now, or maybe all of his shows. Is that right? I mean, is that where most of your time is spent?
Right now it is. Yeah. We're just doing that. And it's a good schedule. We don't, nothing like what we did, say 5, 6, 7 years ago. We were working a lot. It was grueling. It was an athletic performance.
You had to be in shape.
It was like 5 hours a night.
So you're in Vegas how many times during the year?
We do, sure how many shows. It's probably 25, 27 shows.
Do you there like extended periods and then you come home?
3 weeks at a time.
Okay.
And we can come home in between the weeks.
Uh-huh.
We have 3 days off each week. Well, we have 4 days, but 3 days in a row. We can come home on that time.
Yeah.
It's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or we can stay. And, our youngest just started college. So a lot of times Ginger just comes out with, like, well, come on, we'll.
Empty nesters is, you and I are both experiencing that, and it's, there's some positives.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So she'd come out with me. So it's a really good point to be at, and, in my life, in my career, it's really good. And every day though I do live every day and every moment, for the Lord. I'm like, okay, everything I'm doing and whatever it's constant.
Yeah.
And I feel good about that.
That's awesome.
And it just makes everything so much more peaceful.
Yeah. What other interest? I mean, fiddle playing is obviously your biggest, it's not a hobby, it's your occupation, but what other things do you like to do?
Well, I don't really do a whole lot more than that. We have done some gardening. I love gardening. I love sports, but I just don't get the chance to do it much anymore. I mean, I love basketball.
Yeah,
so every kid plays basketball in Kentucky, and I absolutely love that. And would have wanted to play in school, but I was gone every weekend, like Friday nights. I was gone to fiddle contests and stuff. So and I got to thinking it's probably not a good idea with my hands to be doing.
You don't want to jam things right,
but once things got rolling with the music, but I do love sports. I mean, any kind of sports.
Yeah.
So I've done some hunting and things, but and love to fish. But all that, it's just trying to find time.
Yeah.
To do it. When I was a kid, we had like a pretty good sized pond on our farm, and I fished every day. Right, every day. I mean, I'd come home from school, play some fiddle, fish a little bit.
That's my kind of life right there.
Yeah, I mean, so I love all outdoor athletic stuff, and music, but music does take a lot of time, and just and family with kids and things. Even though they're out of the house, they still need this, they need that.
Absolutely, you're still dad.
Can you bring me that? And that's all good too.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's a good busy.
Yeah. Who do you like to listen to besides the people you perform with? Like if you got the radio on, I have Sirius XM, I've got the highway on all the time. Who, maybe new artists and things like that. Who do you like to listen to? Who's some of your favorites right now?
I really don't listen to much new stuff. Listen to old stuff. I love some of the old, like,
you're a classic country.
Yeah. I like classic rock. I like old rock music. I like all that. Anything from, the late 70s, early 80s. I don't really listen to a lot of music.
Yeah. You get your fill, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, I play a lot of it. Yeah. So I guess I'm hearing that all the time. Wow. It's new songs with new artists and working on new songs, with Gareth or whoever.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly doing music.
Yeah.
But I do, and my daughter loves classic rock too. So she's got a great vinyl collection. So I love that. It's like, oh, I forgot about that.
Raised her right.
Yeah. It's like, I forgot about all that,
Right.
But
yeah, that's awesome. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today and taking time out of your busy schedule. I've been wanting to arrange this for a while, but you were gone on the road and in Vegas. And so now that you're back, thank you for taking the time out and just really appreciate you being with it.
Oh, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Appreciate your influence and what you're doing and, the fact that you're centered and, what's most important. That's really neat that you share all that with us today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, I want to tell our listeners and viewers that if you have a question about today's episode, you can email me at chris.mccurley@rippleoflight.com. If you have a question specifically for Jimmy, we'll make sure that he gets it, and I'm sure he'd be willing to answer any question or comment that you might have. We just want to thank you all for tuning in. Share the word about the podcast. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Apple Podcasts. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Chris.